welcome everyone to the May 4th regular council meeting of the City of Bel Air Beach. I see Jody Shirley has just arrived. Lynn, you have a flag nearby there? You want to do a Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, let's
same thing we did last time.
All right.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Robin Aki. Councilmember Marv Beam. Councilmember
Did you
Beam.
hear my ear?
Pardon?
Did you hear me? I didn't know if you heard me.
Yes. Councilmember Marv Beam. Is he here? Councilmember Dave Gaddis. We're getting a lot of feedback on this end from somebody.
Try turning mine up.
Councilmember Dave Gaddis.
Here.
Councilmember Jody Shirley.
Here.
Councilmember Rita Swope.
Here.
Vice Mayor Glenn Gunn.
Here.
Mayor Joseph Manzo.
Here.
City Manager Lynn Reeves.
Here.
City Attorney Fred Riley.
Here.
And with somebody with a video, is Councilmember Beam present?
Here. No.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here.
Okay, Marv Beam is caller number 4.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. I just want to make sure I have this right. Rita Swope is caller number 2, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Robin Aki is caller number 3. Just say yes, please.
Yes.
And Marv Beam, you're caller number 4, right? Yes. Okay. For the people who can see me, I saw this work fairly well at the council session for the county. Just raise your hand if you want to talk. For the other people who are on the line, just get my attention. Just say Mayor, and we'll just get everyone in a queue. We'll try and go through the group of everybody speaking once, and then we'll circle back around and do seconds and thirds, whatever is necessary. But that's probably the most orderly. I know last time Glenn was raising his hand, so I'll acknowledge it. We'll put it in some kind of an order, and it should work that way. Okay, so the first thing is the approval of the agenda, and everyone got a copy, I'm sure, in advance. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Dave Gaddis makes the motion, and seconded by Marv. Any discussion? Take a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? There is no one opposed, so I think we have 6 people here, or 7. I'll count this again. 3, 6. We have 6 people, so 6-0.
Mayor,
Yeah.
who's not present? You have 6-0.
I'm not sure. Marv is present, so now we have 7. It's 7-0, right?
Yes.
Okay, we're complete. Okay, good, thanks. Okay, next is citizen comments. Lynn, you're at headquarters. Is there any citizen comments? Any citizens there for comment?
Yeah, I had to go in the other room again. Ask Patty. Patty,
Okay.
Is there anyone? There wasn't when Mr. Hansick.
Yes, Mr. Hansick would like to speak.
Okay. Let me know when he's ready, and I'll just make sure that we let him know how we're going to do this.
Okay, he's ready.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Hansick. I know it's a little bit unorthodox, but basically, you have a telephone there. We're all able to hear you. We're going to give you the same 3 minutes that you regularly would have. And with that, we turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I would like to request that council consider
Patty, let me call point of order. I can't hear him. I'm not sure about anyone else. It's extremely echoed. It sounds like he's talking to us from about 50 feet away.
Let me see if he backs off the mic a little bit, if that will help.
Okay.
Maybe back up a tiny bit.
I would like to ask that the city council seriously consider increasing sheriff's patrols on Gulf Boulevard. During this stay-at-home order, I have noticed a significant
Patty, I can't hear him. I'm not sure. Can any council member hear him?
No.
No, I can't hear him.
No one can hear him, Patty.
Okay, I'll have him come over to the telephone, but
Okay.
there's someone that, it's like there's a open mic and we just hear a constant, what's that noise?
Like wind.
What is it? Like
Almost
wind?
like wind.
Yeah, and I don't know whose mic it is, but let me have Mr. Hansick come over. And then you don't have to speak into the mic, just speak into the phone.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, council members, can you hear me now?
Much
Yeah.
better.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we can.
I'd like to ask that we seriously consider increasing the number of patrols on Gulf Boulevard. During this stay-at-home order we've been under, I have noticed a considerable increase of motorcycle traffic late at night, speeding from south to north on Gulf Boulevard. The most recent incident was Thursday night, and I happened to be watching television. I could not hear my television for the number of motorcycles, and this was at 10:08 p.m. Yesterday evening, sitting on my back patio, around 6:10 p.m., somebody in a sports car souped up, flying down Gulf Boulevard. This has been a regular routine almost nightly between the hours of 10 p.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m. I did manage to talk to a deputy a few days back, and I guess that there's a policy, sheriffs do not pursue motorcyclists for obvious reasons, but I'm not sure what can be done. But this noise and using Gulf Boulevard as a racetrack, we got to do something about it. And that's the end of my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Hansick.
Thank you.
Mr. Hansick, we can't address it right here, but coming up next is the Sheriff's Office report, and I intend to address your comments, and maybe some of the other council does too, but we'll pick it up on number 3, so we'll get an answer real quickly over here. Do we have any other citizens present, Patty or Lynn?
No, sir.
No. Okay, so I'm going to conclude citizen comments then, and then we'll move on to the Pinellas Sheriff's Office report. Lynn, do we have a sheriff's officer present, or is it just report only again?
Just report only.
Okay. So the report's in our file, and once again, I think for like 6 months running, we have 0 in terms of murder, forcible sex offenses, robbery, and all the other major crimes. I think the record gets broken in April. I think I saw something come through for a grand theft, but I'm not sure. But I think overall, 6 months without any serious crime is fantastic. So great job by the sheriff and both people in the city who are watching out. Mr. Hansick's point, Lynn, I would like to echo his comments, okay? It's getting to be really bad. The motorcycle traffic is becoming unbearable, but what's worse is the racing in the streets. We've had drag racing, and I've seen it, I've heard it. It's just an ongoing thing. There's no one patrolling, and I just don't understand why we can't spot this. I guess we're just going to wait until there's a serious accident or a fatality, because these people are flying. I mean, drag racing down Gulf Boulevard is not good, okay? The motorcycle traffic is absurd, all right? I'm not a motorcyclist. I'm not terribly fond of them, but there is a state law in Florida that you're not supposed to alter the bikes past what their original equipment is. Some of this stuff has been clearly altered, and it shakes the windows. I'm with Mr. Hansick. You can't hear yourself talk, and you'll probably hear some because I'm 100 feet away from it during this conversation. It's just absurd sometimes. Saturdays and Sundays are the worst, and there just seems to be no patrol whatsoever. So I don't know what, if anything, can be done, but I'll echo his comments. It's getting to be annoying, and it's also getting to be dangerous.
And it's mainly at like 10, 11 o'clock at night? Is that what I heard Mr. Hanzig say?
Yeah.
The race, he said that. I will say the racing and stuff is usually in the day, but we've seen it in daytime and nighttime. The motorcycle traffic is all day, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, that I know.
Sunday.
Okay, I'll have a discussion with Captain Liner.
I see Dave Gaddis raising his hand. Mr. Gaddis?
Yes, I've noticed the same issue. However, I have sort of a different take on it. I don't know if we have less resources during what's going on because they're having to patrol the lockdowns that Pinellas County is enforcing. However, it seems to me that I'm still seeing directive enforcement out on 22nd occasionally, and Bayshore, some of our trouble spots. But it seems to me that that's not helping at all. What really needs to be happening, in my opinion, is that they should be staying down there at the foot of the bridge and staying tucked in on one of the side streets on Gulf Boulevard, because that's where all the trouble is fed from. And if they're flying down 22nd, they're going to be flying down Gulf Boulevard and also across the bridge. And the reason why is because we have less traffic now. So there's nothing slowing them down. They're probably going to get caught before they ever enter one of our side streets. That's just my take.
I would like to say something.
Rita Swope, go ahead.
Lynn, you might mention to the sheriff that I had a couple people report to me today that there's children, and I don't know what ages these children are. They're jumping off the bridge right by the pole.
Yeah, we know about it.
Okay,
We
I
caught
just
'em.
wanted to point it out.
Yeah, we've caught them a few already.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Lynn, one other question. I had asked last time, there may not have been enough time to get an answer, but we had a drug arrest in the city, and I had asked for an inquiry, just if the sheriff had some more information on that. Were you successful at getting any info on that?
Yeah, I haven't gotten any information back. I requested it. We had a DUI a week ago Saturday at Gulf Boulevard, and it was an accident. That I know because I was in that area. But I did ask Captain Liner for the drug arrest information.
Okay, great. Any other questions on the sheriff's report? Then we're going to move to the consent agenda. One item on it, the approval of the April 27th, 2020 special city council minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Mr. Martin, you make motion. Any second?
Second.
I'm not sure who that was. Was that Robin or Rita Swope?
Jody. I think
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. There's normally not any discussion on consent agenda, so I can take it right to a vote. We do a voice vote on this. All in favor of approving the consent agenda to approve the April 27th, 2020 minutes? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. The consent agenda is approved and concluded. We now move to the regular agenda, and the first item is a long one here. I'll read the whole thing. It's consideration of ordinance 2020-01. It's an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach providing for an amendment of Section 2-248B of the City Code of Ordinances relating to administrative fines, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for a copy to be kept on file, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. It's been brought by City Manager Reeves. The description is to increase the maximum fines imposed by a special master for violations to be found irreparable or irreversible in nature. Before we get into a discussion, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Dave Gaddis and Mark Beam was second? Yes. Okay. David Gaddis, I move to you first, or you can defer to Mr. Reeves for explanation if you'd like.
I'll defer.
Mr. Reeves?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, this is to update our ordinances. Mainly these come into context with the short-term rentals. And when we have multiple homes that rent multiple times, we take them back to the code magistrate. And this will allow the magistrate to impose a different fine based on the number of times that someone violates that ordinance. As you know, we've got one residence that's violated the ordinance 8 times in the last 12 months, and we've got another residence that's violated it 3 times in the last 3 months. So this was a way to put some more teeth in the ordinance. The current fine at maximum is $1,000. This authorizes the magistrate to go up to $5,000, and that's the maximum city our size can go to.
Council, do we have any questions? And I'll move first to Dave Gaddis since you moved this.
No, I think that this is a good idea. In the past, they are not really losing any money just by paying the fine for what it costs nightly to rent a house in Bel Air Beach. I would say that's a lucrative business. This will knock some wind out of that procedure.
I agree, Mr. Reeves. You and I have discussed this. It's become a cost of doing business for some of these folks, and the $1,000, given the rental rates, is just the cost of doing business. They just factor it into their rentals. This kind of ends it. I only had one question. In terms of the determination of whether something's irreparable or irreversible, do we have that codified any place, or is it just a judgment call by the magistrate?
Well, the magistrate classifies that as something that's already happened and can't be repaired. That's how she classifies it.
So wouldn't that be any special rental then, or any illegal rental?
I guess if it was applied to it, it could be. But in most cases, other than short-term rentals, the only thing we really come to, most of the other code fines are daily. Like, as an example, somebody has a spa that's got a roof on it and they didn't remove it. Well, it's a daily fine. This fine is mainly for things that they can't go back and fix because they've already, as an example, left.
I guess my question should be directed maybe to the city attorney, Fred Riley. Do we need to clarify that in this, in the ordinance? The ordinance is great. I mean, I think we do have, as Dave said, we need to take the wind out of their sails. But I just want to make sure that it's, if it's a first-time thing, even though you have the potential of assessing a $5,000 fine, I don't think that's the spirit that this is being proposed in. I think we're looking for the habitual offenders. Correct, Mr. Reeves?
Yes, basically what this does, we in talking to Fred about it, you know, initially I thought, well, the first time it's $1,000, the second time it's $2,000, the next time it's $4,000. This gives the magistrate and the city the opportunity to say, okay, this is a 5th-time offender. We want to, you know, the city recommends X amount of dollars for the fine. You know, I still believe we should leave it at $1,000 for the first-time offender. If it's multiple times, then I think the city has to make the judgment to recommend for the magistrate to go to a higher level to try to correct it. Because as Councilmember Gaddis said, $1,000 on a week rental, as an example, with the rental on Bayshore, that was just the cost of doing business. They still made another $3,000 on that rental for a week. Fred, do you have any comments?
My comments are that Lynn and I talked about it, and what you're doing is you're increasing the maximum amount that can be charged for the second and following offenses. The spirit of the code section is that if somebody makes a mistake and it goes to a situation where they're going to get fined, there's a much lower limit But if it's a repeat offender over and over again, then you're giving the magistrate the ability to, increase the fine commensurate with the gravity of the offense. And the question from Mayor Manzo about defining irreversible is, you could do that, of course, but my understanding in discussing it with Lynn is that the magistrate has been doing this and handling these cases over a period of time and has been doing a equitable and consistent job with these type of situations. So I don't know that there's really a driving, compelling reason to, define things further, because the magistrate's already applying this in a fair and equitable manner based on what Lynn and I've discussed. So that's my comment.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Gaddis? You're muted.
Whoops, the dog was barking. I had to mute myself. Yeah, anyway, let's say somebody owns 2 or 3 properties and this magistrate is familiar with him. May not have even happened here, but he may know automatically this guy's going to get the maximum fine because everywhere that I run into him, he's doing the same thing. So I like the idea of leaving it at his discretion.
Lynn, is this appealable? If I mean, it's, again, I don't have a problem. I want to discourage this, but I just want to make sure it's applied evenly. I don't want it to be, that guy really annoyed me when he came in and it was his first offense, I'm going to throw the book at him. Is there a second? I think they can step it up if they disagree, right?
They can appeal it to the circuit court.
Okay.
Yeah, any of our code enforcement fines, they have 30 days to appeal.
Okay. And for the record, I just want to make sure we get it on the record. The answer to this has to be no. This is in no way, shape, or form affecting our short-term rental ordinance, correct?
No, this is the code ordinance. We don't ever want to touch the short-term rental.
That's why I asked it.
I keep telling everybody that. Don't touch it.
Okay. Council, do we have any other questions? Dave, you have last word?
I have no other comments.
This will be the first reading, so we'll need to approve it a second time, correct, Mr. Reeves?
Yes, and we'll
Okay, so
advertise it.
this is for first reading. I'm going to just go through this as quickly as possible here. We're considering the ordinance 2020-01, and it's an ordinance providing for the amendment of section 2-48B of the City Code of Ordinance relating to administrative fines, incorporation of recitals, copy to be kept on file, copy for severability, providing for repealable ordinance in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll by name?
Councilmember Bean,
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis,
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley,
Aye.
Councilmember Swope,
Aye.
pardon?
Aye.
Councilmember Aki,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn,
Aye.
Mayor Manzo.
Aye. So it passes 7-0. And we'll have another reading at our next council meeting, correct, Mr. Reeves?
We'd probably do it in June because we have to advertise it.
Okay.
We could have another council meeting in the next month, but
We might. That'll be up to the council. We'll talk about that later on, but so it is possible to have it later. Okay. All right, next, and we're joined by Stan Sofer, Mike Zabel, who were on the Charter Review Committee. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on the committee. We have consideration of item 6, which is the review and approve the Charter Review Committee's recommendations, and the committee recommendations and proposed ballot questions are being submitted for council approval. With that, can we get a motion first? Motion. Moved by Dave Gaddis?
Yes.
And a second? Mark Beam?
Yes.
Councilmember Gaddis, I'll go to you first.
I like what I'm reading. I was on this committee, and I'm completely for it.
Okay. Thank you. Glenn Gunn?
Wasn't there a question about checking on the format, whether or not we needed a brief description of why we were doing this?
Answer is yes, we did. That was raised, was there has to be an explanatory. I don't know if City Attorney Riley, have you looked into that, or Patty Gentry?
You could certainly do that. The more definition you give, it's a hard balance to strike, let me say it that way. The more explanation you give, the longer it gets, and then I think at some point very quickly it gets unwieldy. What I would suggest we do is, certainly want to hear the other comments, but put this in the form for the city commission to formally act on, and at that point, if there's certain things that you want to basically give a predicate to, then I think if somebody wants to have a one sentence predicate, you could do that, but because it's a ballot question, I think the further you get away from the question, the more trouble you're going to have with it.
Let me add one thing then, because we, having been on the committee, we're very close to this, and also being on the council, we're very close to the suppositions and everything behind this stuff. So what I would say is maybe put it in the format like it's going to appear on the ballot, and then maybe run a sample here from people off the street to see if they understand what the question that's being asked, they understand the issue. Run it by Joe Sixpack on the street to see, hey, do you understand what's being asked of you in this question and in this format? Because, again, having been on the committee, we beat around these ideas, we understand the issue very clearly. Being on the council, we understand the issue, and being familiar with the charter and all the ordinances and that sort of thing. It's very close to us, we understand it, but maybe we need to put it in the format like it's going to appear on the ballot, and run a sample case past some citizens and see what reaction we get from the people on the street. That's all I'm asking.
I think it's a good idea, Vice Mayor. Because we don't want, the last thing we don't want to have happen is for someone to come back and challenge the question after it's went through election and everything. So I know we spent a lot of time, but the problem is, I guess for everybody on the committee, there was a lot of hours put in, and everybody's very close to it. So we kind of know what it's supposed to say, but I'm not sure if, it looks very clear to me the way it's been written, but I think it's not a bad idea. Hey, guys.
Wouldn't it make sense to go ahead and get something on the website and possibly even consider doing a mailer explaining exactly what we're doing, just like we've done in the past, so that there's multiple medias that people can look at this and go ahead and have the discussion.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's float the balloon and kind of pre-market this, because I think at the end of the day, the objective is that everybody votes yes on these things. So the more information you get, the more you pre-market it, the more likely it's all going to come back as affirmative votes on the ballot. I like that idea. Yeah, the figure on the website, maybe we're going to get out a letter from the city. This is what we're trying to do and trying to accomplish. If you have questions, ask them now before the ballot comes out.
Jody Shirley?
I think that's a great idea, Glenn. Also, just for the benefit of those that aren't on the committee, I think it might make sense for us to discuss the items. We're talking about only the 1A ranked items on this, what we're reviewing right now. But should someone kind of talk to that so that those that weren't on the committee understand that there are other
areas on the charter that we want to discuss down the road. So this is going to be an ongoing sort of project, but if you didn't have the benefit of sitting in those committee meetings, you're not going to understand what a 1A.
We have the benefit of having Stan Sofer and Mike Zabel here, and maybe they want to address that to everyone. Stan was the president of the group, and Mike, I think you were the recording secretary, so certainly I'll open the floor up to you if you'd like to say some words. And again, I served on the committee. We all, I think most of us did, and guys did a great job of pulling this thing all together, and I think we have some good recommendations here. So with that, I'll turn it over to Stan Sofer and Mike Zabel.
I'll start if you'd like. Basically, I have no problem with explaining to the citizens whatever we may have done. I think the website is a wonderful way of going out to do it. I think doing a mailer would be very expensive at this point to the city, and I really think that the website would be more than adequate with the information that we have out there, explaining what the city attorney has done, what our committee has done. If there's questions, they can come back to City Hall and get more details. Mike, I'll defer to you at this point.
Absolutely, I agree with that approach, especially the way we're all migrating to online systems right now. So definitely get it out there, have them understand it. But I like Ms. Shirley's idea about also stating the 2 and the 3, the items further down the line that we're considering the viewpoints out there, but just for the first ballot, we needed to prioritize that we will revisit this and we will look at these other items.
Just so everyone knows who might not have been on the committee, or if anyone's listening to this at a later point, the committee came up with many recommendations, but following the advice of counsel, Fred Riley, to kind of limit how many you go to the voters with at any one time, we did our best collectively to prioritize the most important issues. So when we're speaking about 1As and 1Bs, basically the group that we would go out right now with for this election, which we're shooting for the presidential election of this year, would be the most important, the ones that we think really need to be addressed now. But there's a secondary group that's coming up right behind that. Also, they're important, but not as important. And then we even, I believe, have a third group, which we want to look at. So probably the next several elections and the next 2 years after the presidential election, we have a council election in March, and then we have a council election the following March. So we, at a minimum, we'll get these on the ballots at that point in time, and most of the people on the council should be able to get those items through if they'd like, in terms of getting them on to the voters for consideration.
I would agree with that.
Anybody else have any questions on that or any comments?
This is Fred Riley, and I have a comment. In the document that the council will approve, you will have 2 things basically that you're approving. One is you're really approving 3 things. One is the title of the amendment. Second is or the ballot title. Second is the ballot question, and then the language that you're actually changing is the third component of it. What I'd suggest you do is that you, at the time the council is going to approve, and I'm just picking a number for purposes of convenience, if the council's going to approve 3 ballot questions, then you would do a fact sheet that the council would also approve at the time that you formally approve the 3 ballot titles, questions, etc. Okay? The fact sheet is what I think Glenn Gunn is talking about, is you have something that has a little bit more in the way of explanation, and that would be fine. The only caveat to that is that I and Mayor Joe, at times I'm not enthusiastic about creating an exhibit for a later lawsuit. So, there's the potential in a fact sheet that somebody could later argue that, hey, you portrayed it this way, but, my interpretation was different, and now there's a conflict and you misled me somehow in the fact sheet. And that's the part I would be a little bit concerned about in creating a fact sheet. To me, the more straightforward way is simply do the ballot titles, the ballot question, and the change in the language of the actual charter provisions, and those be what the city council approve. But I want to be responsive to the point that Glenn Gunn's raised a number of times. You could do something like a fact sheet, and I think that the compelling reason for doing it is you're trying to be informative and transparent for the citizens. So that's my comment.
Glenn Gunn?
I understand everything he's saying, and I agree with it. Basically, if you were to put together a sample ballot and run it by 15 or 20 people, and they come back with absolutely no questions, people understand the issue, and if they vote yes, then it's a standalone. You don't have to put a description or anything else to expand on it. But those questions or ballots that come back with no's on them, or people just are clueless what you're trying to do, those are the ones that we may need to add a little descriptor or change the wording in the ballot question so it's a standalone question. I'm just saying, if we run a little sample case there, it might indicate to us what we need to tweak or expand on or readdress.
Greg, let me ask you, you're going to, once, expecting that we will approve this tonight, you will then be charged with bringing the questions to the Board of Elections to the extent they can address it at this point in time, given the limitations that they may have due to the virus situation. But will we be getting feedback from them regarding clarity? Because isn't it their job also to review our questions to make sure there's clarity for the voters?
I really wouldn't, no, I would not expect that they would do that. I would expect they would say, the city council made their choice and this is what it is.
Okay. Then I'm definitely in favor of what Vice Mayor Gunn has said. I like the idea of at least running it past people that may really looking for massive confusion. If there's a question that just is too complicated, then we'll either break it down or do whatever we have to do to make it understandable. We don't want people voting yes or no just out of a gut feel. We want them to understand what we're doing. There's nothing that earth-shaking in anything that we're doing here. We're not trying to pull anything past anyone, so we want it to be clear, and so I agree. We ready to put this to a vote?
Yes.
Mr. Gaddis, do you have any last words, Councilman? No?
So are we approving this the way it sits, or are we going to wait until we come back to approve the wording of the ballot questions?
I think we're approving it the way it sits, the way it was in our binders, with the expectation that Mr. Riley may be coming back to us with changes based upon either, I don't know if we can run, I do like, if you want to amend this to say we're going to run it past people, then he might make changes because of the amendment, and then whatever feedback, if any, he gets from the election board.
Well, then maybe we just amend it so that we're basically approving what we have. We'll run a sample, and if we deem that it requires some modification or revision, we can do it at a later date.
Mr. Riley, do you have enough time are you still okay with time? I think we have an August deadline, so I think we have a lot of time, but I don't want to speak for you, so.
Hey, if I can get past this Friday, my life will be wide open.
I'm not sure that's going to be possible, knowing what I know, but I wish you luck.
Well, I appreciate that, but here's what I'd suggest we do. You approve what has been proposed, and then I would put that in the form of a formal document that the city council would approve as an agenda item on next month, for instance. And then you have something that is a formalized document. I think it would be approved as an ordinance. I don't think it would be a resolution. I think probably an ordinance, but it would be a formal agenda item that the council would approve. And at that point, if you want, to make additional changes, you always have that ability to do it. I think the purpose of having it on the agenda for tonight was to kind of, accept the Charter Review Committee's recommendations and answer any questions that still remained. And then the next step would be to have put it in the form that the city council can formally approve.
Is that acceptable, Mr. Gunn, for you? Okay, nodding yes. Okay. Councilmember Gaddis, you brought the motion. Do you have any last words?
Last words, I think Mr. Riley's suggestion makes sense. This will at least show the council that we are in an agreement that this is basically what the direction we want to head with the charter. And if we get past this vote tonight, then the next vote should be a home run.
On the questions itself, yes. Okay. City Clerk, would you please call I'm sorry, we do have two other individuals here. We have Stan Soper and Mike Zabel. I am going to open it up for any public comments. There being none, we'll move right to the vote. Although, I see Mr. Zabel, you just put your mic on. Did you want to say something?
I'd say none for me. Thank you.
Okay. Thank
Not
you.
for me either. I like the suggestion, the direction it's going.
Great. Thank you both for your hard work on the group. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll by name?
Councilmember Beam? Councilmember Gaddis?
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley?
Aye.
Councilmember Swope?
Aye.
Councilmember Aki?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn?
Aye.
Mayor Manzo?
Aye, so this passes 7-0. Mr. Riley, please move forward with it, and you'll be back in touch with us then as soon as you can, and as soon as you bring us the questions, we could probably give you approval on that and get this thing moving and get it on the ballot.
Okay, I'll do so. Could I make one comment to close out
Sure.
this point or this issue? I met with the Charter Review Committee several times, and for the record, I want to say how thoughtful and diligent they were about trying to address these issues and doing so in a professional manner. And I think you have some real talent in the city of Bel Air Beach based on the participation of the people on that Charter Review Committee.
I'm going to agree with everything you said, Mr. Riley. It was a privilege to be on that group, and I think we had a lot of very knowledgeable people and a lot of good opinion in there. And I really enjoyed working on that group, and I think we came out with some good results, and hopefully the voters will like what we came up with. Anyone else? Mr. Zabel, you cannot do this. You can't show me all those guitars. I'm coming over to play with you for a while.
Nice to have, man.
Thanks a lot. They're beautiful, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 7, which is consideration of Resolution 2020-02. It's a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, pertaining to the creation of an ad hoc committee pursuant to the provisions of Section 2-102 of the City Code, consisting of 1 City Council member and 4 residents of the city, to provide the City Council with communications, advisory recommendations, and establishing an effective date. And then we have a City Council ballot vote to appoint committee members. Do I have a motion first?
So moved.
Moved by Rhea Slope, and second? Murphy. It would be helpful, folks, if you, when you make a motion or second, if you just say your name, because it's a little hard to sometimes differentiate. Okay, it's before the floor at this point. Rita Swope, you moved it. You speak first. I know we have Rob Reisberg, Stephen Swope, 2 individuals here. We had 4, and go ahead, Dave Gaddis had put his name, and also he has to be nominated, but I expect to do that. So we have 3 people here who have expressed interest on this committee. We normally will turn it over to them, but first you have the right to speak, and so does the council, and then we can turn it over to the individuals.
Mayor Manzo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
This is Patty. I just wanted to let the council know that Ms. Notaro is present. She doesn't desire to speak, but is here to answer any questions.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you and welcome, and I'll open it up, and if she changes her mind, she'll be able to say something.
Okay, thank you.
This is Councilmember Swope. I just want to say, after reviewing the applications and everything, I think we'll have a great group. They'll bring a lot of different ideas and information to it, and to be able to present to the City Council for approval, and I'm looking forward to that. I also would like to, at this point, recuse myself from voting for Steve Swope, and that's about all I have to say about it. I'm very impressed with the outcome and the interest on this.
Okay, thank you. Other council members? Jody Shirley, yes, I see you. I'm sorry. I like done my thing. Now you're down at the bottom. You were up on the top here. I don't
Sorry.
everyone here.
I think, I'm in agreement we need to move this forward, we need to sit on it, but I'm not certain that I'm in agreement with making it only a 5-person committee, because during this time, I don't think that very many people had their mind set on volunteering. If they were volunteering, they were helping people in need and not looking at the city of Bel Air Beach. So with that said, I'm in agreement. I'm committed to this committee, but I don't think we should lock it to 5 people. If other people step up, they need to be considered to be part of the committee. So I don't know how we do that. That's just my opinion on how we move forward. Maybe Lynn can give us some direction there.
One of the things if you wish you could do, what you're able to do, Councilwoman Shirley, is you could make the motion to either postpone this table. I'm going to echo your sentiments, because I know that the applications were due April 1st. We spoke about this at our March meeting. We as the council were supposed to get together and have a work session to kind of come up with Glenn Gunn's favorite word, deliverables, okay? And we don't have that right now. We don't have deliverables. I know in general what we're supposed to be doing, but we don't have that.
Yeah, you do.
What's that?
This is a draft that was submitted via the city manager of the deliverable, and what was asked of it, and that was an issue I was going to bring up, why there was no, and to the city manager.
Hang on one second. I'm going to defer to you, Vice Mayor. Go ahead, because I didn't know you had that, so go ahead.
Yeah, I think we got sidetracked by a lot of other issues, and because this was on the schedule for discussion in the work session, which went by the wayside. I mean, I sat down, talked to the city manager, we put together a straw man for what the deliverables were going to be in the rough draft. So I'm in agreement with Jody Shirley that we've been overcome by events here, and certain other things moved to the top of the priority list. Maybe we need to revisit the deadline on this thing, extend the application, because I think there are some people out there, very capable people who dealt with media and communications, who may not have gotten the word, and we may want to get the word back out there some more, and or expand the number of people on this committee. I'm with Jody there.
Somebody want to make an amended motion, or your motion to table would bring us extra time if that's where you wish to go on this. I will tell you I'm going to support that, because I do believe the same thing. I mean, I think a lot of people were worried about, and still are worried about survival and not worried about getting applications. And I know I remember that we had this, but I was a little surprised when I saw the applications, because I hadn't even had a chance to really consider this. I mean, there's just been too many major events going on right now.
I have a question.
Sure.
Actually, it's directed at Patty. Can you tell me what day the message was put on the website and in email form asking for members or basically volunteers for this committee. And then what was the last day that you accepted the applications?
The last day was April 1st. As far as the first day, I don't have that in front of me.
Does anyone recall?
Would have been after our council meeting, which was March 3rd, I think. Lynn, you're muted.
I don't recall.
That was our last in-person meeting. Is that correct?
Right.
Other than the emergency one.
Right, a day or two after that, I talked to Fred about it, and we started advertising for it after the March meeting.
And that last meeting we had, was any of the public there? I really can't remember.
There was a small group.
There was.
Okay.
In March,
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't huge, but it was a small group. Our next meeting was the emergency, just to ratify the emergency declaration. So that wasn't a public meeting. I mean, it was, but it wasn't. No one attended besides us. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we advertised it on the website. We put it on the board out front here. And, I realized what happened with the time frame because of the virus. That kind of took us by storm somewhere around the middle of the month.
Shortly after we decided to create this committee.
And to clarify, the purpose of this committee is not to come up with a message, but more of finding methods of delivering the message. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
It's my understanding also, Mr. Gaddis, Councilman Gaddis, my understanding is that, this is to come up with means of doing this. This is not the public relations department. It's not the spokespersons for the council or for the city. This is, okay, we should be using Facebook or we should be using Instagram or what have you. Jody Shirley?
The problem is Glenn has 2 pages of deliverables. We're saying that's the purpose, but we haven't even voted on what the purpose of it is. I mean, yes, in general, it is to get, to communicate with residents, but I think Glenn can answer that better.
Glenn, go ahead.
Yeah, let me just hit the highlights here. The deliverables, the final report shall include, 1, prioritize recommendations on how to improve communications between the city of Bel Air Beach and our residents. The ad hoc committee should answer what needs to be communicated, such as project status, budget status, code updates, how it needs to be communicated via town meetings, postal service, email, social media, surveys, or text, when it needs to be communicated, should it be immediately communicated, or is there routine communication? Number 2, recommendations must consider privacy issues, city staff workload costs, and budget impacts. Recommend appropriate ways of monitoring the effectiveness of our communications so that we can determine if we're improving. Suggest appropriate guidelines regarding residents' use of social media for feedback, being courteous, constructive, and fact-based. And all recommendations should include a brief discussion to substantiate the ad hoc committee's position. So it's not just means. I think it was a 360-degree view of communications within the city and the residents, up and down the chain. So not only how, but what and when and how we're going to do it. I think we really need to take a look at this draft and maybe table or postpone this thing until everybody gets a chance to get some input on this thing and decide how we want to proceed. I don't think there's a burning priority on this communications thing right now. I think the goal right now is to make sure that we are all in alignment with what we expect and what we want from this communications ad hoc committee, besides just saying, bring us to rock, because that's what we're going to get back. We just go out and say, go forth and do great things. Let's tell them what we would really like them to look at and the format we want it back in. So that's all I've got to say.
Vice Mayor, I just wanted to say, I'm going to agree with you 100%. We used this same strategy, and we just had a report given to us by the Charter Review Committee, which is a monumental job, I think, in comparison to any of them. We did the same thing with the Finance Committee. They just tendered us a report, and we did the same thing with the Planning Board, and even including going to a few meetings. I know you were there, and I attended one or two just to give direction. So I think, there's the old computer saying garbage in, garbage out. If we just say go and give us, communication stuff, we're not going to get probably what we're looking for. Just what you read was excellent. I think we need to hash it out at a work session, which we can start having again, and then go to the vote on this thing. I would have a much better time knowing who I'm voting for at this point in time, because I'm not quite sure what the skill set that I'm needing from some of the individuals. So I appreciate everyone's advice, everyone's interest, but I think I want to know what we're going for. Jody Shirley?
I would like to propose that we table this until the next work session, and we get a work session scheduled before the end of this meeting, and open back up the application process, because I don't think we gave ample, we gave about 2 weeks of application time, and that was right when the virus was breaking loose and we were shutting down everything, and so I just think too many people lost the opportunity to show interest.
So the motion, to clarify your motion to lay on the table, basically, we're going to lay this on the table till the next, till post discussion at the next work session. We're going to reopen the application process and clarify the goals.
I have a comment to make though first. This is Councilmember Swope.
Okay.
Can somebody clarify when the deliverables were delivered to the other committees? Was it after they were all voted in or prior? To my knowledge, it was after. I mean, people attended the meetings, helped guide them.
I can address that. Just like this draft, a charter was given to each ad hoc committee, basically for their first meeting, so that when they sat down as a committee the very first time, they had a charter in front of them telling them what their composition is, what the meetings are going to be comprised of, when they're going to meet, and all of those things were already detailed out. And as a check, at the end of their cycle in their committee meetings, we went back to the committee charter and started putting check marks. Did we get this from you? Did you look at this? And that's how we basically closed the loop on all of the things we asked for.
So the deliverables were delivered after the vote, not prior. Is that correct?
No.
No, the charter for the committee was given to them at their very first meeting, outlining and detailing what the deliverables were. What did the council expect to receive back from the committee after they concluded their business? So that's the deliverables.
Correct, but that's after they were already voted in and had formed the committee, then you delivered the deliverables to them. I'm just asking for clarification.
The deliverables, sorry about that.
Dave, guys.
The deliverables, the list of deliverables has not been discussed amongst us yet. And I think I honestly don't have a problem working with any of the nominees or the volunteers. I can work with anyone. I just think that we probably want to know exactly what it is that we're telling this committee to do before we bring them in, so that they're aware of it, we're aware of it, and everyone knows what we're responsible for during this committee.
Okay, I'm going to limit this at this point because we have a motion to lay on the table which doesn't supposed to get debate. So let's see if we have a second for that. Let me restate it again, make sure I said it correctly, Jody Shirley. Councilmember Shirley's motion to lay on the table to post discussion at our next work session meeting is to detail the deliverables or charter of this group, if you will, and also to, at the same time, reopen the application process. So there's three things that are happening in this amendment table. Do I have a second?
Second. Second. Do I have a second, Mr. Martin?
I'm sorry, I have Dave Gaddis seconded. Okay, this is a motion to table, so there's, according to Robert's Rules of Order, there's no discussion on this. We go right to a vote. And if the table vote wins, then everything gets postponed, and we'll pick this up at our council work session, which I'm going to ask everybody what their opinion is, what's the best day for everyone. I think we have to get back to these because we've got a lot of stuff on our table. So with that said, the motion that we're voting on now is to table. Madam Clerk, I'm going to ask you to call this, but it's motion to table. It will be heard for a vote sometime post-work session. The elements to be considered at that work session and codified are to detail the charter, if you will, or the deliverables, as we like to call them, and to come up with and to reopen the application process in the meantime. Any changes on that before I bring it to that vote? Now let's take it to the vote, Madam Clerk. This is the motion to table only.
Councilmember Beam,
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis,
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley,
Aye.
Councilmember Swope,
Aye.
Councilmember
Sorry, I
Aki,
didn't hear that vote.
Said aye.
Aye, okay, thank you.
Councilmember Aki,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn,
Aye.
Mayor Manzo.
Aye. So the motion to table passes 7-0. Mr. Reisberg and Steve Swope, thank you for being here tonight. We're going to meet at a work session. The date will be determined right at the conclusion of this meeting, actually in a few minutes here. So we'll get that information to you. You're welcome to come to that meeting and give us any input that you might have. And then we will have the selection on the committee at either our next work session, which will, our next regular session, which will be a month from now, or if we have another makeup session during the month. We may have a special session depending on how things go, but certainly it'll be advertised and everybody's going to know, and I'll ask the city clerk to call you personally. And that also for Leslie Natero. I'm sorry, I don't see you on the screen here, but I know that she's there in the building. So thank you.
Mayor, how long do you want the extension for applications to go out?
Can we keep it open while we're talking about it, which will probably be about another month?
Yeah, we'll just put a date. If, whenever you determine your work session, I guess you'll go from there.
We'll determine that tonight. But that's just my thought. I mean, there's 6 other people here, so anybody chime in, whatever you'd like.
We'll just reopen it.
Just reopen it.
Yeah.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
All the against it? Okay, so we'll just reopen it and then see what comes in. All right, so then we're going to move on to item 8. This is a council consideration of future Penny for Pinellas, Penny 4 funding for Gulf Boulevard undergrounding of utilities. This was actually jointly brought by Lynn Reeves and myself, so we'll take joint credit on this one. It's a project to be managed by the City of Bel Air Beach or Pinellas County, and I'll be happy to give you some info on this. I'm just going to ask first that we get a motion.
So moved.
Shirley? Marv. And Marv, okay. Cody, would you like to defer to myself or to Lynn Reeves or both of us, or you want to go first on this?
No, I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Whoever wants to present on it would be great.
Lynn, do you want me just to give the overview and then you can get into the details because you know more about it? At the last session that we had for the big city, they were trying to push a vote to decide. There's 2 separate options that we have right now, and basically it's how to use this Penny 4 money, which we know we have to use for undergrounding on Gulf Boulevard. The issue is, and Lynn will correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, whether we as a city do this or whether the county does it. And if the county does it, the way I've seen it, they've come up with a little bit higher cost estimate, about $7 to $12 million extra to do this project. The problem is that, if we choose that option, then the county will do it, but they want us to pay the $7 to $12 million additional. And that'll be proportionate based on the cities that got the overall $35 million of Penny for Pinellas money. Glenn's holding up a dog here. So the Penny for Pinellas money is coming $2.9 million to Bel Air Beach and $1.1 million more, and we would share that not share it, but that $4 million would be able to be handled by Lynn Reeves. He and I spoke. He would be managing the undergrounding. That's option one, and option two is that the county would do this. It's okay whichever one we pick. We can debate that as a council. I didn't want to vote on that individually, so I brought it back to the council. But the only caveat is I had made the motion to table at the Big C meeting. There has to be a vote next time we go, which will be the beginning of June. So we just need to resolve it tonight or at our next meeting. With that, I'll turn it over to Lynn Reeves.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, just to clarify, option one is for the county to do it, and option two is the city will do it. And just to give you an example, if we chose option one and the overrun was $7 million, it would cost us $611,000 plus, and Bel Air Shore about $229,000 based on the formula that they came up with for that $7 million. The cost for us to underground the west side of Gulf Boulevard came in at about $1.5 million. The transmission lines are on the east side, which will increase the cost, of course. But I firmly believe that if we just take the money and do it ourselves, we will get a product probably faster and less costly than the $45 million roughly the county is talking about. They thought there was going to be some cost savings, but it turned out there wasn't when you do it as one lump sum. And one thing that I want to mention is St. Pete Beach has already opted out. So in your packet, you've got a sheet, 24. So $8 million of the $35 million is already opted out of the program. And I would recommend that we opt out of it too and do it ourselves. Any questions?
Dennis?
Yes, Lynn, would this give us more control over the look and feel of the job?
Yes, because we could do sort of what we did with Bellevue Estates Island. You know, we could go out and subcontract the boring. We would control the project. That in itself, and you know, the design would still come from Duke Energy, and we would, make modifications if we needed to.
But they don't dictate things like street lights, brands or shape, size, whatever that we use.
No, that's up to us.
I like that idea.
And Lynn, you had successfully ran this project before with Penny 3, right?
Yes. I'm doing that.
I want everybody to know that.
It's ongoing right now. Actually, today they started doing the boring on the west side of Gulf Boulevard. And Spectrum has been, so the first phase that we've done with the Penny 3, we're going to take all the cross wires down and everything on the east side. We had enough money left to do that portion of it.
Lynn, you told me privately, and I want to make sure we get this public because I think it's important. You would wind up handling Bel Air Shore's portion too, but I think in your estimation, when you and I were speaking, and make sure I quote you right, that the $4 million you think is going to be adequate to finish this job, right?
Yes, I do. It should be less.
There's no real advantage. Well, if it's less, then you give it back. There's no real advantage, though, to being with the county from the way you're describing it.
No, because what they would do is go down and you just take the variables with the 7 to 12 million. We'd have to pay them. Clearwater and Reddington Shores or Indian Shores have already undergrounded, and the agreement at the time was to give them about $1.25 million between those two cities, and then the rest of it would go to underground. So. From my view, it would be much more more cost effective if each individual city, and based on what I'm hearing, I think the other cities, there may be one or two that aren't. The mayor can probably address that from whatever the Big C said.
Go, Shirley.
Lynn, when Penny 3 is spent, you're saying all the crossings on Gulf Boulevard will be complete.
Yes.
And so what are they working on right now when you say they're doing the boring? Because I'm not certain that I see anything going on except a new house being constructed on Gulf Boulevard. So,
No, that's part of the boring for Gulf Boulevard. You guys saw, if you saw it today, they've started that boring. Spectrum has been boring, taking the cross wires down, and we've already paid for that with the penny money. And that's...
with Penny 3, correct?
Yes. Yeah, it's not part of this money at all.
So so when do you expect that Penny 3 project to be done?
I would say during this year it should be finished.
I wish you'd give me a more definite answer when I ask you a question. You always are, I think.
No, I'm this year it's going to get finished. I can't tell you that, there's a lot of things that could happen. I mean, a hurricane could happen, many things could happen.
I know,
So,
but okay, so if you're that sure, then you expect it to be done this year. Okay.
Yes.
And then Penny 4, when would that money be available to begin spending and start the West Side?
well, how they're talking about funding it is 30, 20, 20, 20, and 10 percent on an annual basis for the county over a 5-year period. But they're going to front load it, which is good. So unless the county budget gets into total destruction, I would expect in the next fiscal year they'll start funding it. Did they say anything to you?
Yeah, they kind of hedged a little bit, kind of like Lynn did, Jody, with his daycare. They kind of said, we're not sure, we're not guaranteeing anything because of the virus, and we don't know what the hit's going to be. I think they expect $35 million to be available, but they have not guaranteed it yet. I don't believe, unless you heard something differently. I don't believe I heard them saying it was guaranteed at this point.
Yeah, they did sign an interlocal agreement with them.
They did, okay.
A year ago.
So ideally, the original goal would have been early 2021 to release first 30% of, what do we expect that dollar amount to be? $3 million?
30% would be,
No, I mean, we expect $4 million total, so it's the 30% of the $4 million, correct?
right.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I think I misspoke. I said the west side, and I believe you said it was the east side.
East side, yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I misspoke on that. Okay.
It's the main transmission lines for the city. That's on the east side.
Clearly you have the experience to do this, and it's kind of a no-brainer. I don't know why we would put ourselves at risk to get into an agreement with the county to underground if there's the potential of the overruns and us having to eat the cost of the overruns.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of beating their overrun. We did have several meetings with the county and their consultants, and they come and took the information from us, and then they went back to their drawing board and came up with a cost. And the initial cost I heard was about $40 million, and then later I've heard $45 million. So that's probably why they're saying $7 to $12 million.
They also, they mentioned, Barry Burton mentioned, the county administrator mentioned that they just expect that costs are going to increase in the coming 5 years. But again, that's up to us to see how well we can control that. I think last time you were able to do that, so it's not an issue. Just want to clarify one thing Jody Shirley said. She said $4 million. We're saying it collectively. That's expecting that Bel Air Shore will come along with us. We expect they will, but right now it's 2.946 for Bel Air Beach, 1.1 for Bel Air Shore. But I can't imagine them doing any differently. And Lynn, I know you've had discussions with them, right?
Yeah, that's how they ran the last penny. They opted, because they don't really have any staff to do this. So, and it could only be used on Gulf Boulevard. Now, so that portion of money of theirs was given to us as a lump sum.
Correct. Okay. Glenn Gunn?
I'm on board with Jody. This is a no-brainer. Why would we want to give up control of this thing when it comes to managing the timeline, the cost, materials, the sequence, everything else? It's a no-brainer. We've got recent experience. We've done a great job. We've shown cost savings. Residents are happy with the end product. So I'm on board with keeping this in-house.
Glenn, just so you know, I was so tempted. They were really pushing the vote at the last meeting, and I knew number 2 was going to be the right way to go. It seemed like everybody in the room wanted to do that. There were some mayors who wanted to go back and speak with their council, and out of deference to the council, you sent me to the big C to vote, but I said, you know what, I want to bring this back to the council too, because I didn't know what was in everyone's mind. To me, it seemed like a no-brainer also. So, I mean, at any point, if you want to, we can call this question if you'd like, because I think we're ready to vote on this one, unless somebody, I do want to open it up to the citizens. I know there's still a few on the line here and somebody in the House, but if there's any citizen comments, I'll take them now, and if not, we can move this to the vote. Anything, Patty?
Mr. Yes.
Steve or Rob?
Yeah. Mayor, yes.
Go ahead.
Mr.
Yes.
Hansick.
Okay, John Hansick?
Mr. Mayor, council members, John Hansick, 103 22nd Street. I'm in favor of the city controlling the undergrounding. Obviously, I've watched and listened over the months with the undergrounding Bel Air out in the States, and I think that the city, Lynn Reeves especially, y'all done a bang-up job in controlling that and controlling the cost. Let the city do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hansick. Any other citizen comments? Any last words by Jody Shirley or any other council members? Jody, you have the last word.
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let me clarify this. This is council consideration for the future Penny Pinellas Penny 4 funding. We're going to ask you whether you want option 1, which is the county, or option 2, which is the city. So all we want to know is 1 or 2. Vote for either one of the items, 1 or 2. 1 the county, 2 the city. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Beam.
Option 2.
Councilmember Gaddis.
2.
Councilmember Shirley.
2.
Councilmember Swope.
2.
Councilmember Aki.
2.
Vice Mayor Gunn.
2.
Mayor Manzo.
Option 2. So it's 7-0, and with the council's permission, I will act as your proxy, and I will place that vote at the next session of the Big C. Is that okay with everyone on council? Yeah, you're getting all eyes. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, that ends the regular portion of the meeting, and now we'll move it to the city attorney comments. Mr. Riley?
I have no report this evening other than to wish everybody a continued safe existence.
Keep the distance. I didn't hear you real well, Mr. Riley.
I said I don't have any report, but other than to wish everybody a safe existence. That concludes my
Great,
report.
thank you. Lynn Reeves?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, we need to probably figure out when we're going to be able to have a public meeting as a group for the stormwater presentation. I think it's important that, if we need to do the distancing, we can do that and create some way for the council to come to City Hall so the public has the opportunity to give their comments and move forward with that. I told you last week the preliminary numbers are if we paid for everything, it'd be $74 a month. If we do what was recommended, it would be $15 a month. They are relooking at the condo issue because it's only $2.59, and I've asked them to go back and look at that. And at some point, we're going to need to approve the additional funding for the validation, which I explained to you when we first did the agreement. So I need some feedback on that, when the council would feel comfortable coming to a meeting at City Hall.
Lynn, do we want to, I mean, I'm going to propose that we first, I'm going to be pushing for a work session, I think, as everyone can tell. But should we need to hash this out ourselves, because, I mean, $15 a month was something I'd probably be on board with. $74 a month will get us run out of town, virus or no virus. So, and you and I are laughing because I thought I heard it wrong and I called you up the next morning. So, I mean, I think we just want to hash this out and then go public with a meeting. I don't disagree, but I think we probably want to beat this up a little bit amongst ourselves at a work session.
Maybe at a work session, yeah. And then, you know, I can give you the data that I've gotten so far. I do have them going back because basically what they did with the condos was they looked at the building footprint, and I've asked them to look at the complete impervious surface, because I didn't feel that the ratio was that fair. But we'll get that information, and then whenever we schedule a work session, if we do it virtually, then we can have a good discussion about that. But I really feel that the ordinance reading and things of that nature, it needs to be a public presentation with the public available to come to the meeting.
Go to Shirley.
Lynn, when we first talked about this and we met with them, we told them clearly we knew that the assessment we could never pass an assessment enough to cover the cost.
Right.
So I know it was good that they provided that information, but I'm not sure that that's really information that has to be, that should be the forefront. That shouldn't be out in the forefront, because that really wasn't the intent of this, to cover the whole cost of the project. It was to offset continuing maintenance of the project. And then,
Well, that wouldn't be in their presentation. What they would be bringing to you is the $15 per residence, the return money revenue, things of that nature. That's what's going to be in the presentation. I'm just giving you information so you understand that if you wanted to pay for the whole stormwater thing every year, that's what it would cost you.
okay.
I don't think it was ever intended to be anything but a fee that would subsidize the stormwater.
Okay, and then let me just say that I would kind of be in support of a work session and a meeting. I mean, I think we could do them both in one night or something. We are so far behind on things that I'm not opposed to having, a long night and getting things done and getting them off the table, because we're going to be right into budget season, and that's going to be, work session after work session on budget meetings. So just in an effort to keep things moving, we need to really think about maybe a work session and a meeting before the end of the month.
Glenn Gunn?
Yeah, I would say I think I understand where Jody's coming from, and I will never, ever mention the $74 a month again after this bid, because I don't want it the walls have ears, and the rumor's going to get out there that the city's talking about this exorbitant monthly rate. So no, that's DOA. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and I think that's where Joey's going, this is dead on arrival. I'm not even going to talk about that number again. I think, yeah, let's go ahead and get ready for a work session where we can logically discuss what's within reasonableness in the thing and what we get for our monthly costs. I'm just throwing that out there.
Glenn, we were going to say it was your suggestion if it did get out, but just so you know.
Well, he did support it.
Okay, I can take the heat.
Hey, I just lost video. Everybody's video is frozen, so I can't see you waving your hand. So if anybody wants to speak, just ask to speak, and I'll get you that way. Anyone else? Lynn Reeves, did you have anything else on your presentation?
No, because I've already told you they started the undergrounding on Belt Boulevard. Nothing else to tell you tonight.
Okay. City Clerk, Patty Gentry, how you doing?
Good, I have nothing.
Okay. Unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business by anybody?
No.
Mayor, this is Marv.
Yeah, Marv.
In the near future, I don't know about this work session coming up, but I'd like to continue working on the waterside coast, which would include something with the seawalls. I gave Lynn Reeves a copy of some seawall information from Marco Island. We could incorporate that into something that we need to do. The only thing that worries me is this hurricane season, and out my back door I see 2 seawalls that are in bad shape. I don't know how the rest of the city is, but these seawalls are 70 years old and filming.
By the way, I got video back. Thank you, Marv. Do we have any other comments or unfinished business?
There's a lot of unfinished business for sure.
Yeah, we do. And I you know what? Let me just throw a couple of ideas out there of stuff that's on the plate, and then we'll go into city council comments last. But I'd like to try and pick. I don't mind if we have 2 work sessions, a work session and a regular session. Just some of the things that are out there in no particular order. We have the Finance Committee report. We have the Planning Board report, which is a long one. Lynn, you need to give us a date, but we have something. We have to come up with the park grant determination. I know you say by June. I don't know if it's late June or early June. I also know that we have the budget coming up, and the prep that goes with that. Before the budget, there was a suggestion that we wanted to place in our strategic plan, and I'm going to ask that we strongly consider implementing it right now, which is to have the review of the strategic plan. 4 people on this council have never reviewed this plan, but I think it's important going into the new budget season that we all review that one more time and make sure we're all square as to where we're going with this, because it does set our priorities for the year, and it's important that we follow that. That's a suggestion that came out of the charter review, but I don't see why we can't be implementing something like that right now, whether we're required to by charter, irrespective, we should implement that now. So that's just some of the big stuff, and I think we have a bunch of smaller things that are still kicking around. So I think we need at least 1 work session. Whether we have a special session afterwards, that's if we want to actually pass some stuff. In terms of this other public meeting, I think I would only disagree that I don't know that we should go the same night on that. I think we should get the presentation first from Lynn, if you're going to do it, or if this group is going to present to us, and then maybe we take it to the public afterwards when we're square. Because I'm with Glenn Gunn. You don't even have to mention the $74. It's dead on arrival. We're not going to do it. Let's not scare people, you know. But anyway, that's just some of the stuff. So I'm open for suggestions. I'm pretty much around. I have like 0 life here with the virus, so I'm here every day, every night. So whenever you want to meet, I'm pretty well good. Council.
Can we look at 2 weeks out from tonight? Let's start throwing some dates out, and then identifying what we need to talk about.
That's May 18th
May 18th?
for a work session. We'll expect that it's going to be a long one, basically. Glenn's good. Dave's good. Jody's good. I'm sure. I'm good. I'm good. Rita Swoop.
I'm good. It's Aki.
Okay. All right. May 18th, and
That's fine.
I mean, I'm sorry, that broke up. Say it again, please. I think we lost caller 2.
I think that was Rita saying that it was fine for her, and then her phone was dead.
Okay. So you heard just say it's fine. Okay. So let's go with May 18th, and Lynn, if you will put just for the record, we lost Rita Swope at 7:29. So she can come back in if she calls in. Do we, just put as much as we can on it. We might not get to everything, but put as much as you can and we'll start working on it.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is we get out of get through the planning and the finance things, and the park grant, we could have a short discussion on that because we need to resolve that so we can vote on that probably at the June 1st meeting, regular meeting. If I'm reading the calendar right, yeah, June 1st. And then if anyone else has anything, I think and the stormwater. So that's 4 items. And if anyone has any small items, they can send them, just email them to us.
We're going to consider the finance committee and the planning board.
Finance, planning board, the stormwater discussion, and the park grant, just a short discussion on that to find out where everybody's at on it.
Okay.
And also the communications committee, right?
Communications committee also.
Oh, yeah.
We got communications and strategic plan are two that we
And
need.
strategic plan. This isn't going to happen in one session.
I know.
Yeah, I think the strategic plan, we can move that to a later session. We've got our goals that we have to do for this year, and I sent you out an update of where they're at right now. And we can, schedule another work session if you're amenable to that. But we'll plan on doing this virtually on the 18th. Is that good with everyone?
6 p.m.?
Sounds good.
With the expectation that we'll probably have a second work session by the end of the month. Start time is I know sometimes 5 o'clock presents a problem for certain people. The longer the better, but I'm good for any time, so I'll just defer to whoever's got the scheduling issues.
6 works for me.
6? Keep it at 6? 6 is good. Let's keep it at 6.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll clarify.
Residents meeting at City Hall. We're not talking video conference. We're talking an actual meeting at City Hall. Is that correct?
No, I think we're talking video for this. Unless
I think we are.
I vote for video.
Yeah, until the governor lifts this 10-person limit, we pretty much can't be doing the in-persons. I don't think we can.
So we'll plan
That's a
on
good example either.
Yeah.
no.
Video.
So we'll
Video.
plan on video. It'll have finance, planning, discussion of park grant, and the communications committee. And then if anyone sends anything else in, let us know before the 13th of May, because we'll be putting the agenda together for the 14th or 15th. Okay?
And I might suggest to everyone that, obviously we could take finance and spend the whole evening if we want, but maybe, we all have the reports, we can read through them and really come in with just what the issues are maybe, and, maybe we'll agree on some of this stuff. We can kind of cull it down, because I think there's probably a lot of stuff we can agree, and then other things that we may just want to park for a later date. So we'll see what we can do, but maybe we can get through some of these things and, kind of triage this with the highest importance items.
Yeah, and we'll get the committee chairs to lead the discussion. Basically they'll present to you and any information you need from them. That's sort of what we did with the charter.
All right, so now let's move to city council comments if there's no other unfinished business. It's an odd month. We start with Rita Swope if she's still there. Rita?
No comment. I don't have comments.
Okay. And I think then next goes Jody Shirley.
Just for clarification purposes, I was kind of we're talking about maybe a second meeting prior to the end of the month. I mean, in addition to this one on the 18th, I wasn't clear on that, Mayor, when you said a second
We
meeting?
haven't said it, but I was looking on my calendar, that's why I'm looking sideways. I got the calendar here. The next week, I believe, is Memorial Day on the 25th, but maybe sometime that week, and I guess we can decide, as we're holding that meeting, the first work session, if we're going to need a second one. My suspicion is we're probably going to need a second one, so maybe if we want to pick a date that week, we can add something in, just to have the proper discussion.
Mayor, just to let you know, I will be out of town that week, God willing.
Okay. Okay. Well,
I mean, if it's virtual, I can do it virtually.
yeah, I would count on it being virtual, so we're just going to see where you're vacationing at, though.
But no, it ain't a vacation.
Okay.
And then the only other comment I'd like to say is if we're going to stick to these virtual meetings, we've got to get city staff and city attorney on these video conferencing calls, so we're not getting so much feedback from their phones. If there's too much feedback, it's hard to hear. We need to, Lynn, it really doesn't cost a whole lot of money to add a camera.
We're looking into some cameras to put on the computers. So
Yeah, they're not that expensive, and a microphone if you need it. I mean, you might invest $100 per computer, but if we're gonna do this,
we're looking into that already.
okay. And maybe Janice can give you some help with that, I don't know.
Can I add a comment to that right quick? Basically, you can't get a camera anywhere. They're sold out all over the world right now, and they're on severe back order because every student in the country has gone home and doing virtual learning. So it may be a while.
But we are looking into it, so.
I think I have it to one at my office, I can, if we need to, so I can bring you one. Okay.
Got shot out of the town a long time ago, budget-wise, on iPads, but I mean, all your staffers should have an iPad. We gotta quit killing trees, man.
Jody Shirley, did you have any other comments?
No, that's it, thank you.
Thank you. Dave Gaddis?
The only comment I have, Glenn Gunn just touched upon it. I don't know how much money we spend on paper, but I started cleaning out my archives from the city, and I was shocked. I bet I had 5 reams of paper stacked up just within a year. And it's got to be expensive, and it's probably very time-consuming. And I know that having a digital copy of something is not always the most convenient way to look at something. But I would like this council to entertain alternatives to our paper usage.
Anything else, Dave?
That's it.
Mark B?
Well, the only thing I have to say is what I did before, and that's about the codes as far as water side. We need to look at the seawalls at a work session in the future. And the other thing is exactly what Mr. Hansick said about the fleet on Gulf Boulevard, checking out all the racers going up and down Gulf Boulevard, because I can hear them all the way back by me.
Thank you, Mark. Robinaki?
No comment, just everybody stay safe, wash your hands, don't go out unless you have a mask, and just remember that we're opening things up. That doesn't mean the pandemic's over, it just means that there's an ICU bed waiting for you.
Thanks for the optimism.
Thanks, Robin.
Actually,
It's
funny.
real out there, so-
What Robinaki said is what Sheriff Gualtieri said when he said that he convinced the county commissioners to open the county back up. He said, it's not that we've turned the corner on this thing, we only have 34% of the hospital beds filled, so basically, we've got more space, let's open it up and see what happens. So, for everyone rushing to the beach, understand that you're part of the experiment right now. Glenn Gunn?
Yeah, just a couple things here. we went down the laundry list of things we wanted to discuss at the work session. We had the finance ad hoc committee, we got the planning zoning ad hoc committee, park grant, we got the budget, and the very last thing we talked about was the strategic plan. Well, gee whiz, guys, I hate to sound like a broken record, but let's take a couple minutes, talk about the strategic plan as the number one item at the work session, because that forms the baseline and gets us all thinking alike, so that when we start talking about finance, planning, zoning, park grants, budgeting, and everything else, we just had a discussion on what are the priorities and what's important, what flows to the top, what goes to the bottom. So I'll just throw that out there, and when we start the agenda build for the work session, maybe consider, hey, let's take the 15 or 20 minutes up front and talk about strategic plan, review goals, and priorities. Second thing, with this charter review stuff, I can work with Fred Riley on this. I can work with the city manager, kind of call the list, put together just like a one-page thing of the sample ballot questions, and maybe work with the city staff so that when residents come in, if they're willing to take 5 or 10 minutes, we can just give them a quick, hey, take a look at these questions. Do they make sense? Do you understand them? I'll take that for action and work with the city manager on that. Maybe just a resident review when they're in there doing some business or something like that. Lastly, as a community service, I don't know what the reality is of doing something like this, but just as a community service, I know they are doing virus testing in different parts of the city, and it's not costing anything. And I guess this is probably a question for Robin is, are there entities out there that we can partner with as a community service to maybe do some testing right in the parking lot at the city hall or something like that? At no cost to the residents, just a community service kind of thing. Hey, I don't know.
I don't know of any organizations, but I can ask around to see if they need another location in order to do that, like the parking lot. Yeah, I'll try to find out for you guys.
It's that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. I only have a couple quick items. One, I guess I could have put it under unfinished business, but we had, I don't know. I'm not going to get into how disappointed I was with the newspaper headline, the way they made it kind of seem that the council was ready to slap tolls on our bridge. But that was an exploratory meeting that Lynn Reeves and I had with the county to see if it was even a possibility. We did hear back from the county, and this really didn't, I don't think this got out to everybody in the council, but it's not a possibility. The bridge apparently was built with some federal dollars, and it doesn't make it impossible, but I will tell you from knowing Treasure Island's story, they also had looked at this possibility, and they also found out that it was built with federal dollars. You would need an act of Congress, basically, to get any type of tolling on this bridge. So that's dead on arrival, I think, at this point in time. Lynn and I had a few other issues for Tom Washburn. I haven't even pressed it, given the circumstances the county right now is under. It is something that we'll follow up on, but nothing that major. So we may be stuck with this traffic for a while. I will say, a little surprised at some of the reactions, but I think it was the way some of the questions were framed to some of the residents. But it seemed like people were voting to keep things the way it is. Well, I guess I'll paraphrase Barack Obama. If you like your traffic, you can keep your traffic, because that's what it looks like we're going to have right now. I don't have a lot of more solutions, and we talked about the strategic plan. It appears in the strategic plan no less than twice about the traffic congestion in our city. So it is something that I think we need to address as a council to see where we go from here. But I'm just telling you, tolling is out of the question at this point in time. I said the second point, which is the virus is not passed. We don't even know if we're at the peak. Some people believe it. I don't know how you can tell the peak when you don't know what the peak should be, or you're looking, you can only tell the peak afterward, not during. So I'm not quite sure how they're doing this. I know that basically they're saying they've got hospital space, and I'm just going to caution everyone, be very, very careful in public schools. I understand from Sheriff Gualtieri today that Bel Air Beach, the easement points or some of the access points actually filled up. We were one of the few cities to fill up. So I think there's a lot of people taking advantage of the beach, and that's good if everyone follows the rules. Lastly, I just want to thank Lynn Reeves. Lynn and I have been no one probably knew this was happening, but we've been having phone calls once a week, or whatever's necessary during this entire crisis. He's been very responsive to me, as has the city staff. And I'm also impressed with some of the stuff that the city staff has done in their downtime. I know Patty Gentry's been going through, she didn't say it under her part, but she's been going through reorganizing some of the files and some of the stuff that we've had. And I've seen some of the nice handiwork that the DPW folks had did. That was a very informative brochure you put out, Lynn, and I thought that was good. It showed the residents that we're doing things. So great job, and everybody stay safe, and I hope we can get together soon and actually have an in-person meeting. With that said, I'm going to ask if we'll have a motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry, Glenn Gunn has a question.
And just one last thing, I'll send out a link tonight because the Florida Department of Health, Division of Disease Control, Health and Protection, they've got a dashboard up, and I'll send out the link because, I mean, it's a very easy metric to look at. It's very intuitive and I understand. Out of the 3,000 hospital beds in Pinellas County, there's only 221 hospitalizations right now for this stuff. So it's just kind of a quick metric everybody can look at. I'll send out the link tonight to Nick Reeves and Patty Gentry to get out.
Does everybody on council get a copy? I get a copy from the governor. They were getting it twice a day, but all the statistics, are we getting that? Okay, good. Great.
They are.
Okay. Now we can get it to you. So.
Yeah.
All right, folks. With that, then, everybody stay safe. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Second, and all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Want to stay longer? No, never do. Okay, everyone. Thanks a lot. Have a good night, and we'll see you on the 18th. Okay?